Asexual reproduction, budding in yeast. All living things produce their own kind through the process called reproduction. Reproduction takes place sexually and asexually. When two parents are involved and gamete formation takes, the method is called sexual reproduction. Meiosis happens during gamete formation, which is an important step of sexual reproduction. When a single parent is involved and no gamete formation takes place, the method is called asexual reproduction. Yeast are unicellular eukaryotic microorganisms belonging to the kingdom fungi. Yeast size can vary greatly depending on the species, typically measuring 3 to 4 μm in diameter. Most yeasts reproduce asexually by an asymmetric division process called budding. Vegetative propagation, cutting. Vegetative propagation is a special case as it happens in higher plants which otherwise have the capability to reproduce sexually. When a vegetative part of a flowering plant reproduces a new plant, it is called vegetative propagation. In rose, sugarcane, coleus, bougainvillea, etc., this method is used to produce new plants. In this process, stem cuttings with some nodes and internodes are placed in moist soil, which gives rise to adventitious roots and a new plant subsequently. It is a very common method of vegetative propagation. Farmers divide up the rhizomes, tubers, at the end of flowering or growing season. Some plants, like dahlia, are propagated by root cuttings. Vegetative propagation, layering. In some plants, one or more branches are bent close to the ground and covered with moist soil. After some time, the underground portion of those branches produce new roots and develop into a separate plant, as in jasmine, rhododendron, magnolia, etc. The stem or branch that develops adventitious roots while still attached to the parent plant is called a layer. In mound layering, the stem is pruned and the base of the plant is covered with soil. From the base, new shoots develop which are separated from the parent plant and grown into a new plant. Air layering is another type of layering in which branches of the plants cannot be bent to the ground. A piece of the branch is scraped, girdled in this method, and polythene or plastic sheet is used as cover to prevent moisture. This branch is then detached from the parent plant, which grows into a new plant after plantation. Vegetative propagation, Grafting. In horticulture practices, this method is commonly used. In this method, the cutting of a plant, scion, is attached to the stem of another rooted plant, stalk. After some time, the attached cutting becomes an integrated part of the rooted plant. The scion and stalk are placed in such a way that no gap remains between them. Finally, they become joined in such a way that their vascular systems are united. Because of the arrangement of their vascular bundles, grafting experiments are successful only in divots and not in monocots. This method is commonly applied to improve the variety of fruits like mango. Wax is used to cover the place where grafting is being done. This is to avoid infection. Advantages of vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation is a special case as it happens in higher plants which otherwise have the capability to reproduce sexually. When a vegetative part of a flowering plant reproduces a new plant, it is called vegetative propagation. Advantages of vegetative propagation are: 1. Plants which do not produce seeds are propagated by the method. Example: sugarcane, banana, potato, rose, orange, seedless grapes, jasmines, chrysanthemum, etc. 2. Vegetative propagation is a cheaper, easier, and more rapid method of propagation in plants than growing plants from their seeds. For example, many lilies grow very slowly and take 4 to 7 years to develop flowers when grown their seeds, but flowers are produced only after a year or two when grown vegetatively. The trait, character of a plant is preserved by vegetative reproduction. Thus, the plants generated from vegetative means requires less time to grow and to have the advantages of being more uniform and genetically similar to the parent stock. Another advantage is that in propagation by this method, the plants skip the risky seedling stage in which a number of plants die under adverse conditions. Many seedless varieties of grapes, banana, and oranges are produced by this method. Reproduction in flowering plants. This form of reproduction involves two sexes, male and female, which produce specialized sex cells called gametes. The male gametes are called sperms, whereas female gametes are called ova, eggs. Regardless of the type of animal or plant Sexual reproduction involves the fusion of the nuclei of the male and the female gametes. This process is known as fertilization. The product of fusion is a single cell called zygote, which develops into a complete individual. In flowering plants, flowers contain the reproductive organs of the plant, which is the androecium, which is the male reproductive part, and the gynecium, which is the female reproductive system of the plant. Both the male and female gametes of the flower are incapable of movement. The problem of their coming together for fertilization is overcome by the process of pollination. In this process, pollen grains are transferred by various agencies such as wind, water, insects, and other animals to the stigma. Once on the stigma, the pollen grain produces a pollen tube to reach the ovum. The male gamete contains two cells, the vegetative nucleus and the generative nucleus. The first nucleus fuses with the egg and the second nucleus fuses with the two haploid polar bodies to form the primary endosperm nucleus. This fusion is called triple fusion. Reproduction in human beings, male reproductive system. The male reproductive system, like that of the female, consists of those organs whose function is to produce a new individual, that is, to accomplish reproduction. This system consists of a pair of testes and a network of excretory ducts, seminal vesicles, the prostate, the bulbourethral glands, and the penis. The testes lie outside the abdominal cavity of the male within the scrotum. They begin their development in the abdominal cavity but descend into the scrotal sacs during the last 2 months of fetal development. This is required for the production of sperm because internal body temperatures are too high to produce viable sperm. In the body of an average male, there are 2 testicles located in a sac called the scrotum. On top of these organs is the epididymis. The penis has a long shaft and enlarged tip called the glans penis. The penis is the copulatory organ of the males. The urethra works as the common passage for urine as well as for sperms. Reproduction in human beings, female reproduction system. The female reproductive system in human beings is composed of following parts. Uterus. This is pear-shaped, hollow muscular organ. Uterus is the place where the embryo gets implanted and develops into a newborn baby. The wall of the uterus provides safety and nutrition to the growing fetus. Fallopian tubes. One fallopian tube comes out from each side at the top of the uterus. The fallopian tubes end in finger-like structures called fimbriae. Fertilization happens in the fallopian tube. Ovary. There are 2 ovaries, one near each fallopian tube. Ovary produces the eggs or the female gametes. All the eggs are produced by the ovary when the female child is still in the womb. One egg matures in each ovulation cycle and is released from the ovary. The egg is caught by the fimbriae and transferred to the fallopian tube. The ovaries are also part of the endocrine system because they produce female sex hormones such as estrogen and progesterone. Vagina. The cervix, mouth of the uterus, opens into the vagina. Vagina is a muscular tube-like organ which serves as the passage for the sperms and also as the canal during the childbirth.